Welcome to the Better German podcast. My name is Susie Blümel, and I will teach you German and everything around the language, the countries, and the culture. Welcome to the Better German podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about plurals of nouns in German. So I'm going to give you an introduction of the plural of nouns in German. So a noun, of course, is a part of speech, a kind of word that is about things that we can touch, like a table, or sometimes are also things that we can't touch, like help. So this is what we're talking about, and there are different forms usually used for when we talk about more than one of them. For example, tables, 2 tables. In English, this is quite easy. In German, unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. So that's the first introduction to it. So let's get the words straight. So we're talking about the plurals of nouns. And in German, this would be Mehrzahl. Mehrzahl means plural. Singular is Einzahl. So singular is we talk about one object. Let's take a table and Tisch, that's singular. And when we talk about several of them, we have a different form usually. And it's die Tische, the tables. That's plural. And in German, singular would be Einzahl, plural would be Mehrzahl. We do use also the term singular plurals or whatever works better for you, you can use. I'm just telling you the German word as well, because first of all, if you want to learn German, it's a good idea. It's a German word. And also, you might find this in dictionaries. In case you wonder, I've if you have followed my podcast, sometimes said that I'm trying to teach you German without grammar. So, of course, grammar are the rules how you make words into sentences. So when I say I'm teaching you German without grammar, it's probably not a 100% accurate statement. I'm not teaching you German without grammar because you do learn how to put words correctly together, also with me. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to give you as little as possible complicated terms or rules in the way that they are often given in a grammar book. I usually have more an approach of how you would explain it very simply without going into big rules. However, there are a few terms like this one, singular plural, where it's kind of like more complicated to not use the term. So that's why I'm entering it. But whenever I do something like that, I will always explain it. And by the way, there is also an episode coming up about the different parts of speech. Like, what are the different functions that words can have in a sentence, and where I'm going to give them. Because if you have already tried to learn German or pretty much any language or even just learn English, you probably came across them, and I want to help you in clearing them up if you have any confusions with them. Okay, good. So, we're going to talk about the plurals of nouns, die Mehrzahl von Nomen. Noun in German is a Nomen. And I'm also going to give you a little bit of information about the plural of articles because that's super simple in this case. Okay, so what can I tell you about the plural of nouns in German? In English, it's very, very regular. In most of the cases, there are a few ones that are funky, but mostly everything is with S. In German, there is no real rule that I can give to you that will make it super easy. And in actual fact, for every word, you have to learn the plural with it. So when you learn a new word, like der Tisch, the table, you also take a look at what is the plural, and it will be in the dictionary. Every dictionary will give you the plural form for every noun because there is no real rule. So, der Tisch, one is one table, the table, und die Tische, in this case, is plural. So, in this particular example of table, we add an E. The good news, however, is we don't have an infinite number of ways how we make the plural. So it is less complicated and less difficult than you think, because once you have learned some nouns, some words, and you will see the plural forms, you will see there is only like 6 or 7 ways how we make it that are usual, and the most frequent ones are maybe just 3 or 4. So let me give you a few examples, and I'm gonna use words that we have already learned. We're gonna use words from the episodes. We had like 2 past episodes. I've made 2 past episodes with basically just words. One was words about the body parts, and one was words about the classroom. So we're gonna use words of those 2 episodes, or I'm going to use words of those 2 episodes to give you examples on the plural thing. Okay, so by the way, the episode with the words about the body part is the episode 6, and the episode with words about the classroom or office or a desk, that's the episode 11. So I'm just going to use words from those 2 episodes right now. Okay. So let me give you a few examples. So one of the most common ways how we make a plural is by simply adding the letter E to the end of the word. Like der Tisch, that's the table, und die Tische. So we just add an E. And that is, by the way, what we can say relatively safely. In many, many cases, we just add 1 or 2 letters to the end. In some cases, however, we change one vowel. So we will make an umlaut. We will use some of the extra letters that we have in German. Okay, good. So this was one example. Then we have another way, another very often used way is to add an N. Die Lampe, die Lampen. That's the lamp, the lamps. And then another way, another example for this thing is die Pflanze. That's the plant. Die Pflanze. Another thing that we very often have, and that's kind of easy. Good news. Some things are really easy. We don't change anything. We say das Fenster, the window, und die Fenster, the windows. So maybe you have noticed I've changed the article. If you're not familiar with articles at all, then I suggest you very much to go and listen to the episode that I've made about this, which is the introduction to articles. That's the episode 5. So if you're not familiar with articles, I highly suggest to you to listen to episode 5, Introduction to Articles, first, and then maybe add episode 6, which is the word list about body parts, because that will give you more of an idea of what I'm talking about. But just so you know, the article is in English always the, and in German we have 3 versions of it, considered to be, of course, the male, the female, or the neutral form of the article. And we just learn them with the words. If you don't speak a language that uses articles and this idea of a female, a male, or a neutral word, then this may seem odd to you. I understand, but as I said, in that case, I really suggest you to listen to that episode first. However, maybe you come from a different language and this is not so unusual for you. It is much, much easier not to go crazy about them. You don't have to go crazy about them, but if you learn words in the beginning, to learn these articles, the correct forms with them. And by the way, I will have an extra episode coming up on how to learn nouns. That's going to come soon. And there I will go into that even more. So let's go back to our example. And I was telling you the plural of das Fenster. Das Fenster is the window. And the plural of das Fenster is die Fenster, the windows. And what I want to point out in this example is the word itself doesn't change in this particular case. And that happens quite a lot. For example, also der Computer, die Computer. There is no change in the word. How you see the word is used in plural, however, is on the article. So the article changes, and the article, and that's good news, for every plural word is die. This could change depending on the usage in the sentence, but the basic form of articles in plural is always die. So when you say something like das Fenster ist schön, that is, the window is nice, so beautiful, and you want to say the same thing about two windows, because you have two windows in your room, then you say die Fenster sind schön. So that's the thing. The articles are always die. So I'm going to give you one more example. I'm not going to give you all the details of all different forms of plural. I'm having a separate episode, which is the next episode, where we really just practice all the plural forms of all the words that you have learned if you have listened to the podcast so far. So I'm going to give you all the plural forms and have you repeat them for episode 11, that's the word list office, and episode 6, which is the word list body parts. So that's the next episode coming up. And I, of course, as always, highly suggest you to listen to it. In this episode, I'm just going to give you some basic explanation and some ideas of the different forms so you're not totally puzzled when I first do that. So, okay, so we've had the versions where we add an E, we have had the versions where we add an N, and we've had a version where we don't change anything. Now we have another thing that we do a lot. So, for example, let's take the word das Buch, the book, and the plural for das Buch is die Bücher. So what we do, this U, the letter in English U, in here, in German, U, becomes changed to the German Ü. So Ü is a letter that looks like English U and has two dots on it. So we call it Ü or umlaut, and we have those a lot, by the way. And just in case you were wondering about them, these are separate letters. So these are really separate letters. So we have additional letters in German. This is for A, in German A, for O, in German U, and U, in German U. All of these have a different version or a different letter that looks the same, but it has two dots. And these are really different letters. This is maybe something that is important to know because it's not just the symbol that we put there somewhere. It has a different pronunciation that you may have to get used to it. And it's a different letter actually. So, das Buch becomes die Bücher in plural. The books, die Bücher. So, we change the U, the letter U, to the umlaut. So we basically put two dots on the U and we add an ER at the end. And that's a quite frequent way of making a plural in German. We will have that in many occasions. Another similar way, it doesn't have to be two letters, it could just be one, would be, for example, the word Rucksack. That is a word that is sometimes also used in English, and it's a German word. It means backpack. And the plural for Rucksack is Rucksäcke. So, Säcke is again a sack, by the way, is a bag, basically. And we just put the plural on the second part of the word. So, Rucksack and Rucksäcke. So, the A becomes an umlaut A. So, we put two dots again on it, and it's pronounced Ä instead of A. And then we add an E to the end, and in German E. So, der Rucksack, one backpack, the backpack, die Rucksäcke, the backpacks. And another example that is very similar with a different letter is der Blumentopf, the flower pot, der Blumentopf. And the plural is die Blumentöpfe, Töpfe. So again, we put two dots on the O, and that becomes Ö, and we add an E at the end. Die Blumentöpfe. So these are just a few of the forms. There are not so many more that are used a lot. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an intro on the plural. And the summary is, in German, we have not a set rule on how to build the plural for nouns. So you have to learn the plural with each noun. But it's not so hard as it may sound, because we just have a few different forms that we're using a lot. And the other good news is every dictionary will tell you how to do this or what the plural form is. And the plural form for the articles is always die. So, the next episode coming up, we're going to practice, or I'm going to give you the plural forms of all the words that you've learned if you have followed the podcast so far. And these are words that you will find around you or on you, because these are body parts and these are words about an office. And we're going to practice. I'm going to give to you the plural for every one of them, and we're going to practice it. I'm going to give you some clues on how you can practice them further. Another episode coming up soon is an episode on how to learn nouns. Because the first thing, if you want to learn German or any language, by the way, is to learn nouns and to learn the words for the things that you will see around you. That's also the first thing a child learns when he or she learns their language. They learn nouns. And so I'm going to give you a few tips on how to learn German nouns. I'm going to give you the tips on how to practice them and how this can be fun, and also about the different points to look at when you're learning a new noun. Okay, good. So this is coming up soon. As soon as the episode's out, I'm going to link it also in the show notes of this one. I can tell you when it's coming. So this is coming in the beginning of February. So in the beginning of February, there is going to be an episode on how to learn nouns. Okay, good. So let me know what I can do for you. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Susie. I'm teaching you German. I'm telling you also about the culture of the German-speaking countries. I appreciate that you're listening to me. You can find all the information about what I do and what I offer on my homepage, bettergerman.info. You can find the show notes for this episode on bettergerman.info/22, because this is the episode 22. So you will find the show notes for this episode on bettergerman.info/22. And I hope to see you or hear you again next week. Bye bye.